Back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Stephen A. Smith is going to kick off homecoming week here at Temple on Thursday with the free event. The doors open at 7 o'clock. The event starts at 7:30 at the Howard Gittes Student Center. Now joining us on the main event is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen, it's Zach Gelb here. How are you?
How you doing? How's everything?
Well, everything's going great here in Philadelphia, and we're excited for your event coming up on Thursday. Since they canceled the homecoming concert, you're now the featured event, and you covered actually Temple basketball and Temple football. A lot of people may not know that, so what can people expect if they come out and see you speak on Thursday night?
Well, obviously, I mean, anytime you're talking to folks, particularly college kids, you want to be as honest and as forthcoming as possible in terms of just keeping them aware of making sure that their eyes remain on the prize, understanding that nothing is going to be given to you. You're going to have to go out there and earn everything that you want, and just trying to be as motivational as I possibly can because, who are we as a nation if you're not taking care of folks for the future generations to come? I mean, that's really what the mindset has to be. And a lot of times I think that when students are talking to people, they're just getting the runaround. And we all know that I'm not about that. I'm going to say it how I see it. I'm going to tell it like I believe it is. And we're going to go from there. And that's what this is about. And that's why I'm looking forward to coming and talking to the students.
And the Sixers get ready to open up their season in a few weeks. There's not a lot of high expectations here. But Khalif Wyatt, he dominated the Liacouras Center last year for the Cherry and the White. He's trying to fight and make this roster spot. We've had this debate numerous times last year. How do you like Khalif Wyatt's game translating into the NBA? And can you see him making the 76ers?
Haven't seen much of him. I've watched him a couple of times. I like his game. I like his athleticism. I think he's got a shot, particularly since the Sixers are perceived to be as being a team that really isn't going anywhere in the very near future. They've got their struggles. We know they acquired Nerlens Noel in the draft. And ultimately, it's going to be a situation where they recognize they're 3 years away. They've got a good new coach that comes from a solid background in San Antonio, an illustrious background, I might add. But you did lose Drew Holiday. Andre Iguodala has been gone. We all know that. I just think it's going to be a rough ride for them for the time being. So if you're a young player with any kind of talent, you've got an organization that has every reason in the world to have patience in you. And I think when it comes to Wyatt, that's exactly what will be the case. So he's got a shot. I just don't know how good of a shot it really is.
And this is also a contract year for Evan Turner, and he needs to have a breakout season. Can you see him elevating his game this year for the Sixers in a big role?
You know what? Not really. I mean, I can see his role elevating to some degree. He's a smart player. He knows how to play the game of basketball. He understands it. But at the same time, certain guys just are who they are. Their athleticism and their skill set is what it is, and there's really nowhere to go. Evan Turner belongs in this league. He can play the game of basketball. I think there's a lot of rosters that he could help. But do I see him emerging as a star in this league? No, that's not what I see. I see him as a solid player.
And you mentioned it, they lose Drew Holiday, no Andrew Bynum, as that was a complete disaster last year, as Stephen A. Smith joins us on the hotline. And they bring in a lot of rookies here with Nerlens Noel and Michael Carter-Williams as well. I know Noel has some injury problems, but what do you expect out of those two rookies as they get ready to kick off the season in a few weeks?
Well, I expect it to be a rough patch for them. In the case of Michael Carter-Williams, I mean, he's a guy that's going to have to learn how to be a point guard on the fly. That's not really his MO. I mean, he was at Syracuse, struggled from the three-point range, but he's got decent height on him. Got to get more girth, more size on himself in order to be effective on the NBA level. I think he'll have his growing pains, but I think he'll be fine. Nerlens Noel is all about that injury. It was a nasty knee injury he suffered from when he was at Kentucky. We all know that. We'll see what he does once he gets healthy. But again, after the Andrew Bynum experience, I think Philadelphia can appreciate the perspective that anybody has if it's attached to a cautiousness. Just looking at it and saying, well, you got to hope the guy is healthy. If he's healthy, he's going to be a raw talent offensively, but defensively he can be a presence, and I think that would help the Philadelphia 76ers immensely. But they still are going to struggle and struggle miserably. Don't doubt that.
Hinkie took a long time to name the head coach of this team, and they went with Brett Brown. What does he have to do to get this team to a 20-win mark this year? Because a lot of people see them finishing under the 20-win mark, Stephen A.
Well, I think they'll get to 20. I think that as long as you're giving effort, you'll see them register somewhere around the 20-win range, but that's about it because they just don't have the talent to expect anything more than that. What you want to do is make sure you develop the young players and you make sure the nucleus is in place to build upon. You don't want to find yourself in a situation next year or the year after where you're trying to jumpstart something. You want to make sure that the foundational elements are in place. So it's simply a matter of growth and then also acquiring guys in free agency and through the draft. You want to make sure that's your mission beyond this upcoming season and moving forward. You don't want to find yourself in this situation next year asking yourself the same questions you're asking now.
And you talk about one of those players possibly in the draft, and that could be Wiggins, who all the fans want them to go out there and get him in the draft following this season. Are they going to need Wiggins to make this Brett Brown era a success here in Philadelphia?
Well, you're going to need something. Wiggins would be nice because he's that marquee dude, and certainly if you're awful, your hope is that you'll get the highest draft pick imaginable to capture a star. A lot of these high school players I haven't had the luxury of seeing, so I simply don't know. You hear a lot about them, but with me covering the NBA, doing my television, radio shows, et cetera, you see them in glimpses, but you don't see nearly as much as you would like to really give a definitive analysis and evaluation on what they do and what they can bring to the table. I simply don't know, but I have seen Wiggins. I know he's big time. That other kid that's going to Duke, I heard he's big time. I've seen them once or twice. They've got some skills, and we'll see what happens from there. But the Sixers would definitely need somebody of that marquee level in order to generate the kind of excitement we once enjoyed with this season, with this team for years.
A few more questions with Stephen A. Smith. This will be at the Howard Giddes Student Center coming up on Thursday night at 7:30. It's a free event if you bring your TU ID, your OWL card. Let's go to the Atlantic, the division the Sixers play in. The Brooklyn Nets, they bring in a lot of pieces. You have Paul Pierce come in, Kevin Garnett, as well as Kirilenko. And then you have an interesting coaching move. I was at the press conference when they announced Jason Kidd as the next Nets head coach. It seems like that's a lot of egos to manage, but how do you see Jason Kidd panning out as there's a lot high expectations here with the Brooklyn Nets?
Believe it or not, the high expectations that the Brooklyn Nets have attached to it, very little of it has anything to do with Jason Kidd. Everybody knows he's a rookie coach, but at the same time, you've got a guy in Lawrence Frank who's a former head coach, his former head coach when he was with the New Jersey Nets, not to mention the fact that you also have, KG and Paul Pierce in the mix. Because what KG and Paul Pierce is, you basically have coaches on the floor who are capable of doing things for you and assisting Jason Kidd. So let's keep that in mind and understand that he's in a very, very good position. You've got two champions on your roster who are experienced and can get the job done for you. And you've got Darren Williams, Brook Lopez, and a guy like Joe Johnson as well. Plus you've got a bench. And then because you have that bench, it helps you immensely. Because by having that bench, you've got depth, you've got talent, and more importantly, this is the thing that keeps going unnoticed about them. They have perimeter shooting. Their defense may be a little bit soft, so that's something that can't be ignored. But please understand that they're one of the few teams in the NBA that can put five guys on the floor at the same time, all capable of hitting 50 shots from 15 feet and beyond. The fact that you have that in today's NBA game, which is soft, compared to what it used to be, helps the Brooklyn Nets immensely. They will be a team to be reckoned with.
And the Nets have had a lot of talk since they had Prokhorov come in, or if they want to be the number one team here in New York. Who do you see having a better season this year, the Nets or the Knicks?
Well, I definitely see the Nets having a better year than the Knicks because I think they're a better team. Obviously, the Knicks acquired Andrea Bunyani, but be careful in terms of dissecting what I just said. I don't believe that necessarily means the Brooklyn Nets will have a better record than the Knicks in the regular season. I just believe they're better suited for the NBA championship, to compete for the NBA championship and to knock off Miami. You have to remember, there are nights off. KG and Paul Pierce are both going to take. They're in their 30s. They've won championships. They put a lot of mileage on their body. KG is not expected to play in back-to-back. Paul Pierce is expected to have his minutes limited to about 25 a game. The combination of those two things and putting more of a load on the Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Brook Lopez of the world will leave the Nets formidable, but still in a position where they can end up winning less games than the New York Knicks, even though I'm not sure that will happen. But come playoff time, they are definitely better suited than the New York Knicks to take on a Miami Heat. Iman Shumpert, to me, would be the key for the Knicks. If he emerges and really develops a consistent perimeter shot, the way he plays defense, if you can keep him on the floor with a J.R. Smith, with a Carmelo Anthony, or if J.R. Smith sits down and you've got Andrea Bugnani hitting shots from the perimeter, and you can still keep Tyson Chandler and him on the floor at the same time, the Knicks could potentially be formidable. But I think right now, clearly, the Brooklyn Nets are better than the New York Knicks. I don't think anybody can deny that.
Final one here as we're talking to Stephen A. Smith, and then we'll let you run. You see Derrick Rosie's coming back with the Bulls. The Pacers have another year of experience. You mentioned the Nets and the Knicks. Can anyone take down Miami here in the East? Who has the best chance to take down the defending champs?
I think the Indiana Pacers. I don't like the fact that Derrick Rose is already sitting out preseason games due to knee soreness. I think that's a very bad sign. I think when you look at Indiana, however, they've got the best shot of anybody to knock off the Heat. They took them to 7 games last year. Man, these dudes are trees. They're humongous. They're just Goliaths, okay? And they don't try to be flashy. They don't try to be something they're not. Paul George emerged as a star. You still have Danny Granger coming back. You acquired C.J. Watson as your backup point guard because you really don't have a point guard in George Hill who's talented, but he's not a point guard. And you stole Chris Copeland from the New York Knicks, who's a 6'8" sharpshooter. So you add all of that to the size and girth Indiana already had, and clearly they're in a position to win the world championship by knocking off the Miami Heat. They could pull it off. I'm not saying they will, but they could pull it off.
Well, Stephen A., we appreciate a few minutes today. We're looking forward to your event here on Temple University Thursday night at the Howard Giddes Student Center. Doors open at 7:30, and it's free. So we appreciate it, and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Stephen A. Smith right there on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. We're all excited for his event coming up on Thursday. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these short messages.